welcome back to Happy Health Hour, everybody, those watching live and those who are going to watch the recordings. I'm Navtej Dosanjh, but it doesn't matter who I am. Let's meet the really important people on the show. We have Dr. M, we have Dr. P, and we have Nurse Linda. Welcome, all three of you. How are you doing?
Fine.
Good.
Great.
All three of you look as though you look very serene. You look as though you've been meditating. You look as though you've been practicing Eastern and Western medicine. And coincidentally, that's a great segue because this week's episode is about Eastern and Western medicine. Dr. P, let me start with you first because you are really, I was going to say you like to be a philosopher, but you are a philosopher. You're a deep thinker. You're a philosopher, as are other two guests. But I know you like to take this the questions from a 40,000 feet perspective first. Eastern medicine, Western medicine, are these good terms to describe what the two schools are? Are there more than two schools? Can you give us an idea of the landscape about this? Because I think everybody thinks they understand Eastern and Western medicine. For example, I think I understand it, but I probably don't. Can you enlighten me and everybody else?
Yeah. Let's say that these are simplistic distinctions, because if you go back in time, then you will find that a lot of so-called Western medicine, which I'm calling the ancient Greek system, would be a parallel to what now we are calling the Eastern system. And when you talk about the Eastern system, there are many of them. It's not just one. And then how would you classify homeopathy? Because it came from Germany and then it got adopted in India more than anywhere else. Would it be East or West? Or how would you see Ayurveda today, which is being absorbed in the US in a kind of integrative medicine? Would you still consider it East, or with all the changes coming, would you consider it Western? So the difference that I see is what we call Eastern medicine. Please notice my quotes so that you don't get upset with them. The word comes from a Greek root, which I don't want to discuss right now. But um, uh, uh, in the original Eastern approach was intuitive, experiential, holistic. It came out of a deep engagement between the practitioner or the shaman or the priest or the healer with the person who had the condition. Now, the distinction between disease and doctor was not there. Now, the moment we say that, because it was a part of a healing together, it was also a community level engagement. It was not a cut and dry, ego separative, hierarchical distinction. For example, when a patient comes to me, they already are looking up, as the comedian Brian Regan has pointed out. This is the only time adults are put in a small place, a puny place, and they have to answer for everything they did wrong, like as if they're school children. But there's a hierarchy, and I come with my robe, and back in the background there's music and lights are shining. Then I come and I poof and I fix and I give a shot. It doesn't work like that. So the Western system is more analytical, intellectual, but it is based on a principle of duality, reductionism. There's only the body and its processes. What is behind it is not really there. Now, obviously, it's improving. That concept of a holistic healing is coming out. The psyche is considered important, the mind, and even perhaps at some point, the spirit, the soul, the word that we are scared to use in medicine, in Western medicine, the divinity within us, if I may use the word. So I'll stop there. That is how I see it, and I will love to hear what others have to say about it.
So, uh, actually, s- you were talking for 4 minutes there. I've never been so educated about Western and Eastern medicine in 4 minutes as I just have been there. So thank you so much, Dr. M.
Yes.
I want to ask you about your personal experience of practicing with all its simplicities, Western and Eastern medicine. Um, can you describe your journey when one became, if it did indeed, one became more dominant than the other? Or has your journey been um, uh, um, one where you are combining both?
Yeah, more of the latter combination is what I have really been, working with. I'm leaning more in the other direction, if you want to call it the Eastern direction, because it's so rich in its offerings. There's so much to the Eastern ways, if you want to designate them as such. But there's a lot there to offer, and I did my dive into it many years ago, having come across different instances where I said, there's got to be something better here, better than what Western medicine is offering. And from personal experience with my own a loved one who I had to care for, and that was my mother, and I saw that the Western approach was really not working, and I was I took that very seriously, and I was angry because they were not doing anything for her, and she succumbed to the ravages of the disease that she had, and but I was determined to find out about the other things that were available, and so I was on my journey. And so when I started really treating people, I was treating people with the alternatives in mind. I had to also use the conventionally taught materials, but I knew that there was something more that I had to do, and I've really changed quite a bit from the time I started, close to 30 years ago. I've changed a lot, and I'm pulling away from a lot of the synthetics, a lot of the techniques and everything that are used in the Western world. I'm not knocking everything. I'm certainly not. I'm not here to do that, but there is so much. It's so rich. All that has happened in the past, which it spans continents. And so I incorporated so much of that into my recent and now practice, if you want to call it practice. I just do these things, and with the blessings of Dr. P and Linda and others, it works. It works when you put your heart, soul, and mind, spirit, everything all into it. When you do it from a standpoint of holism, and you don't separate everything into parts and pieces, as medicine is very reductionistic and conventional medicine, that is. You put it all together and you put the pieces together. You kind of use them as the ground to work on, but you kind of make it all work as one unit, and realize that there really is no separation. That's all an illusion. We don't
Mm,
separate the arm from the eye
mm.
or the heart. They're all working together, and so that's what this integrative approach really, it hones in on the wholeness, the oneness. There's no duality here. It's really um, one system, one universe inside of a universe. So it's like we're microcosms of a bigger macrocosm, huge universe. So I've been, really incorporating more of all of the offerings of the so-called alternative, which is really the Eastern stuff that's come.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. M. Dr. P, you had your hand up before I come to
Yeah, I
Nurse
just
Lynn.
wanted to let you know that I disagree with what Nurse Linda said, and I'll reserve my comments once she has spoken them
Okay. Yeah.
to dispute what she said.
You wanted to
I
get it.
haven't said anything yet.
You wanted to get your point in quickly, and
No,
then let it.
yes, it
And then
doesn't matter what she
and
says. I disagree.
you disagree. Okay. This is going to be intriguing.
Yeah.
Um, Nurse Linda, he obviously knows you. He obviously has an inkling about what you say. He probably has an inkling about what question I'm going to ask you. But let's see if it
No, I have no
transpires
inkling.
true.
I
Let's
have no inkling.
see. So, Nurse Linda, my question to you is: so Dr. B gave us this, really quite excellent. I hate to say it to make
Yes,
his head
it
bigger
was.
than it is. He gave us an excellent overview of what Eastern and Western is, and it was Western was once Eastern, and now it's not, and but taking let's remain with the simplistic pathways and descriptions, just so that we don't get too confused. Notwithstanding the complexity that Dr. P made us aware of. So, could you describe the differences between the two? And I know there's a lot of Eastern medicines, but just give us an idea of. He did the 40,000 view. Could you come down to 500 feet and give us the differences between the two?
Okay, I can, but I would like to first start with that this is not an either or proposition, that there's a
Okay.
place in medicine today that is both. It's more integrating wisdom of the past with evidence, which is the new. They
Okay.
just look at things differently. Western medicine is precise, it's acute care, it's diagnostics, it's what is wrong with you now. And Eastern medicine is more balance, prevention, lifestyle. What is the root cause? How do we prevent it from happening in the first place? And how do we move from here with other than medication, synthetics, those kinds of things? How do we move the spirit within the body? How do we look at things more on a whole level? So the differences, I believe, are mostly that with Western medicine, it's now, it's what's happening now. It's an acute care thing now. It saves lives in moments, whereas Eastern medicine helps sustain health over a lifetime. It's the future of medicine is knowing how to use both. The future of medicine is knowing how to blend them both to not only take care of the acute condition that's happening now, but perhaps to prevent anything else from happening in the future. So it's a complex melding that probably needs to happen. And I believe what I'm seeing in medicine today is a movement in that direction.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Um,
argue with that.
so,
Okay.
Nurse Linda, Dr. P, maybe we can argue with that.
Yes,
How
I'm
did
going to argue with that.
antibodies?
Let me argue with that.
Okay, we'll
I'll
start.
I'll
We'll sit.
I'll tell you a story. So 2007, we were traveling, the whole family. We had 3 children, and we went to India. We went to North India first, then we went to South India, a place called Pondicherry. Those who know Auroville, the international city, would know where Pondicherry is. So my daughter was 11 years old, and she started complaining of cramps in the abdomen. Nothing specific, no nausea, no vomiting, no diarrhea, no blood red stool, uh, blood in the stools, all that typical. I took my whole history, 11 years old. Now I'm going inside. Oh my God, where am I going to take her? The hospital where I had trained only for, say, 2 months, I didn't know anyone anymore. So I just came out and I found a homeopathic clinic, which was run by the ashram there. So I took my daughter there, and we had a homeopathic physician there, and he was talking to a friend of his. They're discussing deep philosophy and all that, and we sat. And so he talked for 5 minutes. I'm here, I'm sitting. The whole world has come to a stillness. We're talking about universal things. And I said, okay, I got to take care of my 11-year-old. So then he says, okay, sir, what do you have? What is the issue? So I'm telling her, I give her a nice history. So it says, okay, this is very common, happens when you're traveling. So I'm going to give her these two medicines, and the person at the desk, at the counter outside, will fill them for you, and she'll be better in 10 minutes. I'm looking at him. Did he want to do something, exam? No, he just took a history and we're done. It wasn't more than 45 seconds. I can't come out. Now, there are two ways to look at it. Skepticism, but he doesn't know what he's doing, or complete bewilderment. So they give me those little two bottles with those little granules in them, and I look at them. One is Nux vomica and the other one is Magself. So I give it to my daughter, three little, those granules, and put them in the mouth. You don't touch them. You can't touch it. Just drop it direct in the mouth. We come back to our place where we are staying. And I ask her in 10 minutes, how you're doing? Gone. Now, was it acute? It was immediate. She took care of her. Of course, she was not bleeding, so we didn't have to suture and all, for which I would go to a Western, facility. But the ability to diagnose, pick up the clues, was quite like an allopath would do. The confidence with which he approached and absolute certainty that he had nailed it. Of course, since then I've researched this much more. And then, of course, Dr. Stanziano, Dr. M would know much more than I. So that is the distinction. It is not, again, a complete separation. And the response was immediate. And I've seen this several times. Now, why don't we study it? Because there's no money in it. They did not charge me for the visit. There was no money. It was not a commercial venture. Why would anyone research something where there are no billions of dollars involved? That makes no sense, obviously. So we don't research.
Not here anyway.
Yeah, we cannot give it intravenously. We cannot charge 15,000 per shot. So there's no point researching such non-commercial ventures. But on a more serious note, this is something that is real. It happens. There's no point saying it does not make sense, because it works, and we have to revisit our paradigms in Western medicine to learn from this. Remember, before acupuncture was accepted, it did not have any reason until someone found a reason why it works, the gating theory. So that is only one small explanation of something that is far bigger than gating theory. Anyway, let me stop. Let me disagree with others before they make other comments, but I pass it on to you.
So I didn't hear any disagreement with Nurse Linda. I was expecting fireworks, and you basically agreed with her.
Yes, essentially, but I'm trying to be nice to her. Next time it won't be so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm old. He's trying not to, he's trying not to step all over me because I'm old.
okay. Nurse Linda, I'm gonna come back to you. I want can you take an example, because there's a myriad of Eastern medicines. Can you take one, perhaps one you're familiar with, the Ayurveda, and just describe that in more detail, please? Could you do that for us?
I can attempt to. I know that when I visited India, oh gosh, I guess it was about 9 years ago now. I went to an Ayurvedic clinic because I wanted to see. Someone had told me I really needed to experience this, so I did. And what I learned is that approach to medicine is based on three what they call doshas, the vata, the pitta, the kapha, and they translate into Western medicine as neurologic, metabolic, and structural. So there is connection between the two types. The approaches are different, though. The approaches. So I have massage here, and I've had massage that is combined with acupuncture. So there's an Eastern-Western combination. But what I experienced in that Ayurvedic clinic went a step further and went mind. It was sensation, and it was meditation, and it was all the senses, smell, hearing, almost taste, um, the sensorium, all of it, all together, to create the outcome that they were looking for. And boy, the outcome was amazing. Um, it's a total immersion. When I experienced this, it was a total immersion, everything, and nothing was left to chance. In Western medicine, it's cold. It feels cold in comparison. It's Western medicine is just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Sergeant Friday, and know, um, what's happening now, how can we measure it, how can we diagnose it, what do we have to do, and it's a 3-step process. What's happening, here's the exam, they'll listen to you, maybe they touch you, maybe they don't. Western providers are trained in a completely different way to approach the entire thing in a completely different way, and thus the experience is completely different. Right, wrong? There's no way you can say which one's right, which one's wrong. What I can say, as someone who has experienced a lot of these different things, that together they're much better than separate. And unfortunately, there's a time thing. And Dr. Singh is right. I'm going to agree with him. And don't faint, Dr. Singh. Don't faint. I know. Don't faint.
Always.
Here it's all about money.
Mm.
It's always about money, especially big pharma. If they can't make money, nobody can. If you don't use them, you're going to fail. And it's created a mindset for patients that they come in and they say, first of all, they've gone on Dr. Google, so they know what's wrong with them. They go and they tell the doctor what's wrong with them, and they tell them what they want them to do for it. And it usually has something to do with a very expensive new medication that they just saw on television last night 400 times while they were watching their 30-minute program. And they come in and they tell the doctor, this is what I have and this is what I want. Go. So different. So completely different than over there, than
Thank
just
you. Linda, I'm going to come back to Dr. P because he's got his hand up again, and then I
I just
want to
wanted
go.
to I just wanted to bring it to your attention now that when she's talking about the 3 dosas, these are not masala dosa, plain dosa, and non-veg dosas. These are not even samosas. These are doshas. Just
Oh,
wanted you to know that. It's not the South Indian restaurant.
No, Dr. P, I think you're going to have to assume that our listeners are at least averagely educated, that they would know that. So we're just going to have to assume that they knew the difference between a dosa and a dosha.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Dr. M, how far are we from this evidence-based integration that Nurse Linda described in the United States? How far are we? I mean, I can give you my experience in the UK with my GP, but how far are we in your opinion, in the United States?
we're coming close, but there's still a struggle. Okay. Because of all that's been said. Money, politics, there's lots of arrogance. The folks here in this country, unfortunately, they have a highly um, dosed amount of arrogance. There's a lot of arrogance, and so there's a lot of money that goes along with the arrogance. There's a lot of, we're doing it this way kind of thing. If we don't really want to pull all this other stuff in because it's going to impact our fortunes, whatever. It's crazy. I mean, to even think that there's going to be money associated with health, it's
Hmm.
just crazy. So a lot has been done. A lot of effort is being made now as we speak, in hearings and courtrooms and in meetings all around this country. People are anxious. Many people are anxious to see this really happened. This merge, this real integration happened. And medical schools are now going to be required to incorporate nutrition. Like,
Oh,
duh, the
yeah.
nutrition courses you're going to have to take, several hours. I think it's 40 hours of nutrition, which is about, it's mind-boggling because that's how
Mm.
we started out. We start out with the Hippocrates and all of his wonderful wisdom and everything he taught, and dietetics was on the original oath. We start with dietetics, meaning we start with food. Food is your medicine. So now they're going to, starting in the fall of this year, for the first time, we're going to have nutritional courses. So it's going to be, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. It's
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 a
it's
struggle.
far
It's
too slow for me
mm,
and for the rest of my colleagues who are understanding all this. It's too slow, but it's happening. Things are happening. They're making some progress when it comes to moving things together. I just myself did a fellowship in integrative medicine. There are bigger classes now, more and more graduates of the integrative medicine programs. So thankfully they're there, and so we're opening minds and eyes to the fact that this is the way it's supposed to be. As Linda said, and as my husband said, we really need to bring these together. It shouldn't be separate. There shouldn't be any separation, but because of the arrogance of this area,
mm,
these regions, we know better. There's a lot of hubris, if you will. There's a
Mm.
lot of this, we know,
can
we
I
know it, and it's this way.
can I ask a related question to that? I know this is going to be very hard to answer, but if you can, just without, you don't need to put a percentage on it, but just um uh, um I, I just want to get some understanding. Let's say that all humans in the United States had great diets. I don't mean expensive diets, just great nutrition, not diet, nutrition. Good nutrition. They ate the right things. They didn't eat the wrong carbs. They didn't eat processed. They didn't eat. They didn't have sugar, fat, sugary drinks. Let's say they did. What what impact would that have on the total health service? Just, I mean, it would probably halve the need, right? So the doctors could probably just focus on real acute problems.
Yeah, so that certainly would. Yeah, there would be, probably 50, maybe more percent drop
Yeah.
in chronic disease because all of that, what you just said, is contributing. Along with other things as well. There's activity level, there's sleep,
Yeah.
there's mental issues. Having a good life, reducing stress. There's a lot of factors here that we focus on, and they're crucial. The things I just said, they have to be in order. Your life has to be in balance. But if you eat well, but you sit on a chair all day, or you don't sleep, or watching
Okay.
television or playing on your devices, certainly,
Mm.
but with the nutritional element changing and not having ultra processed foods and sugar and crack, um, we can make a lot of difference. Yes, tremendous. Yes.
Amazing. So to that, the idea that they're just going to put 40 hours of content into a medical degree, I mean, the return on investment, if they just focused on it more, would be enormous. Nurse Linda, I want to come to you and then offer Dr. P the last sort of wide philosophical wrap up for this week's episode. But you had your hand raised, so what was your point?
Well, I wanted to talk about a little bit more about the integration and some of the dangers of it too, if it's not done
Okay, that'd be
properly,
interesting.
because
Yeah.
um, the three of us, I believe, agree, which is like unbelievable. We agree that the two approaches need to be integrated,
No, we
but they
don't.
they need to be coordinated, they need to be transparent, and they need to be supervised. And there's reasons why, not the least of which patients who are not educated properly, patients who don't have a relationship with the provider such that they can communicate well, during visits might misunderstand and stop taking medications that they shouldn't stop taking by misunderstanding. There's a
Mm.
lot of disinformation online. We went through that
Yeah.
last week when we did the, Google Doc podcast.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, supplements, the FDA here in this country, they don't have the same oversight and regulation on
Mm.
the supplement market. So may not know what's in them, so on and so forth, and the things that could lead to. And on the same vein, you could have, if the two aren't integrated, if the patient is going to a naturalist on this side and a PCP on this side, and neither one knows what the patient is taking, then you could have supplement slash medication interactions that are bad for the patient.
Mm.
So just like, in
Really
in,
good
in
points.
the United States, we have Medicare and we have managed care, and in Medicare, I call it the Wild Wild West, where patients can go anywhere for their care, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. It would set up that same kind of thing if this wasn't integrated well. That's
Yeah,
that's
really good points, Linda. Dr. P, the floor is yours to wrap up this week's episode. You had some whatever you want to say, your philosophical wrapping up of the episode, or any other points you want to make.
So I'll tell you the problem with this. The very fact that we are trying to do an integration is based on a frame of reference that is a Western frame of reference.
Mm.
Because when you talk about integration, the Eastern approach is already an integration. It is a holistic approach. How do
Okay.
you take a part of a holistic approach and add it to a reductionist approach and make it holistic? So I just wanted to make sure that narrative is understood in
Yeah.
in our own subconscious. We are taking it as a model, but it won't work in this society, in this mindset, because our society is reductionistic. We have divided ourselves, and that has created huge problems. And the very fact, as Dr. M has pointed out, we look at healthcare as a commercial venture or commercial approach is a serious fundamental flaw. Then there is a story of narrative, means the Western medicine is superior, which is how it is sold to the global South, to the countries that are beginning to come up. And if you
Mm.
saw, remember what happened during COVID. So there's a lot of politics involved in it.
Mm.
Um, the Western world did not share its vaccines with global South. Guess which country shared vaccines with the global South when they did not have the vaccines? They came from India. And then India was bashed for not taking the vaccines coming from the US or from Europe because, of course, the vaccines coming from the West are superior, and Indians resisted it. And the reason is because here we have given a complete immunity to the vaccine makers in the US. India does not allow it. So why would a whole industry get complete immunity is beyond me. No other industry gets complete immunity. And the only
Mm.
reason I can think of is because through the vaccines, they give us immunity. So in return, we are giving them immunity. I don't think so. But
Mm.
there's a
Mm.
fundamental problem.
Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
politicized. And recently, if you look at the statements coming from some leaders in the West, that a different kind of imperialism over the developing countries can be allowed. Remember, imperialism was not just a political force, it was also a religious approach to convert people to the higher religion. And I'm just going to say it because, of course, not only is our medicine better, but our religion is better. And not only is our religion better, but our frame of references are better. All that to see outside that frame of reference needs the
Mm.
ability to see clearly and the ability to step beyond that manipulative, controlling, supremacist approach to life and to the whole world. That is going to be difficult to drop. So yes, we are trying these little models like
Mm,
space balls. The guy was playing with these little things behind the scene, little dolls. No, this is big. This is global. We're talking about trillions of dollars, and we are being very naive if we think that
yeah.
integration will work. So let's understand this. This is a far bigger game than we have understood and seen, and people are forced into certain situations. Anybody who's trying to stand outside is pushed into uh, um, um, giving in and just complying. So I just wanted to put that out there. Let's be aware of how subtly we are all being manipulated and controlled.
So, Dr. P, I'm not going to add any more words to that because I don't want to detract from how we just wrap up the show. And Dr. M or Nurse Linda, have you got anything to add to this at all? I don't want to be the person adding.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. M.
I told you I
We
disagreed with Linda
we
even
have
before she
to
said it.
it's a fundamental thing.
start, and we're starting the fire now. It has to happen. We have to make the moves. If nothing is done, things will stay the same. We have to make some moves the best we can. Many of us are doing it in our own communities. We're just moving ahead. We're doing what we have to do for our communities. I cannot work with the people in other countries right now. I mean, I could do my best here, and hopefully that vibration and frequency can get there. So we all have to do our part, and we have to start now.
Nurse Linda, last word to you because Dr. P was playfully saying he disagreed with you, but actually he agreed with everything you said. So the last word goes to you then.
Yeah, he would disagree with my saying my name is Linda Diltz Benson. So there's
All
that.
right.
Just because.
She's very contrarian, so just remember that.
There was a time when I too was, younger than I am today and not understanding or having the patience to even think about how the two philosophies could work together, should work together, or even that they existed at the same time and why they were so different. So the questions that we ask on these podcasts are very thought provoking and things that we don't normally think about, on a daily basis, or as we're researching them and we're learning it becomes a way of looking at things very differently than in my 72 and a half years I have been used to looking. So the fact that we do these is amazing, and I hope that many people see them and start asking the questions that we ask, or try to answer the questions that we've tried to answer, because down that road lies knowledge and health and a better sense of well-being. I really have nothing to add except that we really need to look at this from many different angles in the future. There are other questions that we can ask and many, many answers that we can come up with, none of which that are going to refute anything that was said here today, no matter who said it, even if he doesn't agree, which he
So,
does.
Nurse Linda, lovely way to end it and to segue into if you're watching and if you're watching the repeat, please subscribe to the show. Please like and view the show and view other shows in the recordings because we would love to get to a critical mass so that this show can spread out. We have extraordinary doctors and an extraordinary nurse here talking about health from lots of different perspectives, being authentic, talking from the heart, rather than just throwing out glib statements.
And might
sound.
I add, ask the questions. Get online and ask us the questions. We'd be very happy to answer them.
That's a great point. Thank you, Linda. But from this week, it's that's the end of the show. As usual, we ran over by 20 minutes, so it may end up being half. But great news, we have 2 shows that we're going to publish again this week. So it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Dr. M. It's goodbye from Nurse Linda, and of course, it's goodbye from Dr. P too. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.